We're back with longtime newspaperman Joe DeLoach. And Joe, we joke, you're kind of, when you cover a team, they tend to leave. I mean,
That's right.
Okay, tell us this history. I mean, obviously the Raiders.
So, well, 79, I was hired by the Valley. November 78, I was hired to cover soccer, and they gave me the Raider beat plus junior college. Well, the Oakland Stompers, they folded in about 2 weeks.
Right. And to tell people what this is, people remember the San Jose Earthquakes.
And then I ended up covering the Earthquakes, which other than the drive, it was all right. But if you can imagine a nightmare, you've got to write a 15-inch story before a deadline, and it's a 0-0 soccer game.
Had you ever covered a soccer game before?
I covered high school soccer. Yeah. But where I got lucky was they had a very famous player by the name of George Best, who was at the end of his career. He was as famous as the Beatles. He played for Manchester United, and he was legendary. In fact, when he passed away, the BBC showed his funeral live.
Wow.
Like at 4 o'clock in the morning. I remember one of the Earthquakes PR guys who now works for Arizona State University. They didn't have text messages, but we were emailing each other back and forth while we were watching the funeral.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And let's see. Well, the Raiders left. The Stompers folded. The Seals moved to Richfield, Ohio. And Gary Simmons, the goalie, likes to tell this story. It was during practice. He's looking down at the ice, and he goes to one of his teammates, and he says, "Look, there are dead flies underneath the ice. Not even the flies like Richfield." Yeah, I've never been there, but apparently it's out in the middle of nowhere.
In fact, you know something, Joe? They did. They built it between Akron and Cleveland, and they thought that would get more fans. But the land, and they didn't know the winter. It was difficult to get there. And in fact, now I was just fascinated by this. The Cavs moved back to downtown Cleveland.
Yeah.
They just tore it down and let nature take over. It's a nature preserve. It is. It's in the it's in the middle of nowhere. But no, I'm trying to think. I first met you when you were covering Cal.
Okay. Well, now, the thing about Cal is that when I covered Cal in...
It's like late 80s, early 90s? Was it?
No, I covered them from 88 through 90, my last year in football. The 90-91 team ended up beating Clemson in the Citrus Bowl. And the quarterback was Mike Pulaski.
Sure.
Wide receiver Brian Triggs. His son plays for him now. But those guys, they were all from Southern California, and they all were on the B or C list of recruits. USC, UCLA, Washington, they all bypassed them. And the coach at Cal, and Bruce Snyder, suddenly these guys, they had a really good team, you know. And they were almost like mini Raiders. In fact, Snyder, who was an assistant for the Rams, he had training camp for a couple years up in Santa Rosa.
Okay.
So it's like they had this little locker room, but when you covered the Raiders, you were not allowed to go in there. But Cal, I could go in there, and I just kind of visualized, Otis Sistrunk, Ted Hendricks, all these guys, all these legendary Raiders, what it was like. One of the real culture shocks for me when I first covered the Raiders was they had this kicker by the name of Earl Mann. In fact, in the Super Bowl 11 when the Raiders beat he still holds the record. He missed 2 PATs in that game.
Okay.
But he's sitting on the practice field. He and Stabler are smoking cigarettes. Just think about that. You don't see that anymore. Of course, writers can't go on practice fields, They let you, I guess, teams let you watch like 5 minutes, and okay. Then you got to go back in your little media room there and wait till the practice goes. Then coach comes out and brings a couple. Oh, it's awful.
It's much more sanitized now.
No, yeah, I would never. But getting back to Cal, they were almost like mini Raiders. I mean, they were so outspoken, and then Bruce Snyder, after Cal finished, I think 8th or 9th in the country, won the Citrus Bowl. Snyder was the lowest paid coach in the Pac-10. They brought in a new chancellor, new athletic director, a guy by the name of Bob Baccarat, who was Arizona, and he's just a penny pincher. Snyder left.
For Arizona State, I think.
He went to Arizona State, yeah, because he just, he was a really nice guy, just wanted to, he just wanted to be paid more than being the lowest paid coach in the league.
It's tough when the guy at Oregon State gets paid more.
Yeah, so when Dave Craigthorpe, I think that was the guy's name, but Snyder went, the good players graduated, and then Cal went back to being Cal.
Right.
But for
2 years there.
90, 91, yeah. 90, they won their first bowl game in 52 years. It was a Copper Bowl, but just getting to a bowl game.
Well, it's huge. I mean, as a kid.
Yeah, it was good. Then the 91 team was really good.
Yeah.
They could. In fact, the Clemson team they beat in the Citrus Bowl had 5 first-round draft picks. Chester McLaughlin was on that team.
Yeah, the Raider, yeah.
Yeah, Levon Kirkland, who was a linebacker for the Steelers. Then Ed McDaniel, he was a guard for the Vikings. Another Raider, James Trapp.
Wow.
He wasn't a first round. He was like second, but he was on that team.
Was he a wide receiver, James Trapp?
No, he was defensive back.
Defensive back, okay.
Yeah.
A very good team.
There were some other guys, but yeah.
Cal had Russell White or no?
Russell White was on the 91 team.
Yeah.
That was, but see, he was a Prop 48 guy, so he couldn't play as a freshman, so he was really motivated. His big thing was his weight. He was really motivated. He had a great sophomore year. Junior and senior, he was okay, but nothing like that. But they had 2 running backs. They had a senior, Anthony Wallace. They both gained 1,000 yards. In fact, that 91 team, there was at the time their second team in NCAA history to have 2,000-yard rushers and a 2,000-yard passer. And the only other team to do that at the time was the Pony Express with Craig James and
Dickerson.
And Eric Dickerson.
But they might have been a semi-pro team. That was the best team money could buy, SMU.
Yeah, well, yeah. So that team was pretty cool to cover.
That's awesome.
And they were really. I saw Pulaski at a game last year at a Cal game. So I hadn't seen him about 20. I didn't realize. I said, God, it was like 25 years since that 91 team.
It's amazing how time goes.